Okay, starting the next class here, if statements. We just finished learning about Booleans and comparisons. So if we come in here, let's get started. You can use if statements to run code if a certain condition holds. If an expression evaluates to true, some statements are carried out. Otherwise, they aren't carried out. An if statement looks like this. If expression statements. Okay. Python uses indentation, white space at the beginning of a line to delimit blocks of code. Other languages, such as C, use curly braces to accomplish this, but in Python, indentation is mandatory. Programs won't work without it. As you can see, the statements in the if should be indented. Okay, so I guess the way you set up an if statement, it's if some type of expression, we'll figure what that is later on, and I believe that's a colon, and then after that if expression, the statement that you want carried out if this is true has to be indented below the ifs, the beginning if expression. So let's go ahead and see some examples of that and learn more about that. What part of an if statement should be indented? The statements within it. Okay. If statements. Here's an example if statement. If 10 is greater than 5, print 10 greater than 5. Print program ended. The expression determines whether 10 is greater than 5. Since it is, the indented statement runs and 10 greater than 5 is output. Then the unindented statement, which is not part of the if statement, is run and program ended is displayed. So this program here gives us this result. So since 10 is greater than 5, then this statement is printed out. Now, if we were to come in here to play around with that, if we were to say if 3 is greater than 5, print that statement, that would not print it out. So let's show that. So we're just printing this, which is not part of the if statement. So if we change it back to how it was, if 10 is greater than 5, print 10 greater than 5, which does print here. After that if statement is run, then it just continues on with the program as normal and this comes out. But if we change this here so that the if statement is false, then the statement within the if statement does not run, as you can see. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Notice the colon at the end of the expression in the if statement, the colon here at the end. As the program contains multiple lines of code, you should create it as a separate file and run it. Okay. What is the output of this code? Spam equals 7. If spam is greater than 5, print 5. If spam is greater than 8, print 8. So spam is 7, so we just have to come in where it says spam here and replace that with 7. If 7 is greater than 5, print 5, so that will print. And if 7 is greater than 8, print 8. So this if statement will not run because 7 is not greater than 8. But this one will because 7 is greater than 5. So 5 should be printed out. Correct, okay. If statements. To perform more complex checks, if statements can be nested, one inside the other. This means that the inner if statement is the statement part of the outer one. This is one way to see whether multiple conditions are satisfied. Num equals 12. If num is greater than 5, print bigger than 5. If num is less than or equal to 47, print between 5 and 47. Okay. Now, so I understand what this is saying. What I'm not understanding is why this if statement needs to be nested within this one. Because if we come in here to play around with this, if I don't nest that second if statement, we should get the exact same output. Yeah, we do. Because, I mean, we're still checking num we're comparing it with our operators. We're comparing it with 5 and 47. So I mean, I'm not really sure why that if statement needs to be nested. So let's see if maybe the comments explain that. Inner if statements only runs if they're true. Oh, okay. So let's say, for example, if num is less than 5, which it's not, if num is less than 47, which it is. So if we run that, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So this second if statement is only looked at if this first if statement is true. So in this example, since this first if statement is not true because num 12 is not less than 5, it doesn't even come and look at this second one. So that makes sense. So if num is greater than 5, which it is, then this first one returns true and it prints bigger than 5, and then it comes to this second if statement. Okay, so that makes sense. So that's why you have nested if statements. Okay, let's continue. What is the output of this code? Num equals 7. So it looks like we have a triple nested if statement here. If num is greater than 3, print 3. If num is less than 5, print 5. If num is equal to 7, print 7. So all we're going to print here on this one is 3 because num is 7, so num is greater than 3, but num is not less than 5. And so when we get here and this returns false, we no longer continue down to this this third nested if statement. So we stop once this returns the false, and we're just printing out 3. Okay, perfect. So that is if statements. That is extremely useful, extremely helpful, and hopefully you found it to be so as well.